Hey guys, it's Rachel here with Life of Senza. So it's been a while. I've been trying to focus on my other channel and getting it going again, getting a rhythm. And I've also just had a lot going on. And so anyway, I wanted to take some time and kind of talk to you guys about some new stuff that's been going on. So I had made a comment in a video the other day about that some things were done to try to hurt me that ended up helping me. All right, go ahead. And so what that was is that I had put up this video of text messages between me and a customer of mine that was basically trying to blackmail me. And I was really ticked off at the time. And I didn't hide the phone number specifically because these people posted their Google reviews in their own names anyway. So I didn't really see that they were threatening to go after me publicly. So I didn't feel that their privacy was necessarily warranted. However, I thought about it, and regardless of whether it's legal or not, for me, the issue, what I really came down to is once I kind of calmed down was what kind of person do I want to be? And regardless of if somebody deserves it, do I want to be a spiteful, vengeful person? Or do I just want to simply defend myself and, you know what I mean? Like you can defend yourself without having to try to punish the other person. And so I took it down and I was going to blur it. I did try to blur it, but for some reason, the YouTube editor, for whatever reason, it just will not work. It will not add a blur. And I just decided whatever. To me, the important part is that a very good portion of my subscribers, particularly people that watch a lot, and get off, go away. Literally ran into me, and so that was what was important to me. They did leave a bad review, both of them. I did respond to that bad review, and then not only that, but they called animal control on me. And the good thing that happened from that is that animal control thought that it was stupid, and were very annoyed at the call. Basically, they're not going to take it seriously whenever you purchased a dog from somebody 6 months ago, but then now you're trying to make a complaint. You know what I mean? She's like, if it was a problem, why didn't he say something 6 months ago? And so anyway, and it was obviously a very valid point, but she did come by, just take a look at the dogs, make sure everybody looked okay. And then she told me about a breeder that was nearby that got their permit. And she was like, so what happened with you guys? Did you guys get denied? And I was like, no. I was like, I actually rescinded my application and decided to kind of wait until things calmed down before I decided to reapply. And she goes, I think you're good to go. She's like, because the people that got approved, she goes, we're always out there. She's like, they are a legit puppy mill, and we're always out there. And she's like, and they're always just right out of reach of prosecution, but they're not good people. And she was shocked that they got a permit. And so anyway, so that was good news because it really showed that the county is still doing permits and stuff like that, and it's it's definitely not a no. And I felt like it was a sign that I should go ahead and reapply. And specifically because I've made peace with a lot of my neighbors. The only one that I haven't really made 100% peace with yet is this next door neighbor, but I'm hoping that maybe things have cooled down a little bit. I've tried to remain peaceful, and I think that they've remained peaceful. And there was a moment where I think their dog was lost, and Savannah helped them find their dog, and Savannah said they were very nice. So I'm hoping that we're all just going to let bygones be bygones and kind of move on. But at the very least, even if they didn't, I do think that I would get approved if only just one person didn't like it and everybody else did. So that's the cool thing. I'm not gonna lie, it's been actually really nice having other people raise my litters. Obviously, I used to judge other breeders for using what they call a whelping service, which is where you pay somebody to whelp your litter for you, and they get them to 8 weeks, and then obviously you're responsible for selling them. And usually you pay them the cost of like a top pick puppy. So in my case, that can be anywhere from $3,500 to $4,500. And so that has really, it's enabled me to do a lot more pack videos and stuff like that. So I'm not gonna lie, it's been very nice, but it will also be nice to be able to operate my kennel myself, like, and not have to it'll be nice to not have to worry about whether or not I can run my business and things like that. So anyway, so that was really good. And it was, and the way that I said that it was meant to help me is that, there's once again, people, the animal control came and there wasn't anything wrong. Everything was good. And, I was even able to show that, or I even informed her that, and many people may not know this, but I bought these big airline crates. And so every single one of my dogs can come inside when the weather is just really bad. Like if we're having Arctic, freeze temperatures, things like that, every single one of my dogs can actually now come in the house in their own kennel, and they're very big and spacious. Obviously for the night, it's not like something you'd want them to live in. It is an airline crate, but nonetheless, they're big and they're spacious. They can move. Dogs even as big as my Mortigan can turn around in them. They were like $400 a piece. So that was really cool. I was happy about that. And, it was, like I said, an opportunity to show that once again, I am legit. Everything is good. We're doing what we need to do. And I've just been doing my part to outreach in the community. I've been a poll watcher, and I just have been doing my part to kind of help. And everything has just been really good and really positive. Oh goodness! And so anyway, so that's been good. And then I think other than that, the whole vet thing, it's unfortunate. It is what it is, and I think the saddest thing for me about it all, and I was talking with Reese about this. You guys, do you have to run into me every time? The saddest thing about it is that I feel like vets and breeders should really be on the same team. Like we both work in the same industry. We need each other. You know what I mean? Breeders need vets, and vets need breeders, because without breeders, there are no pets. And so it's like, I feel like it's the only thing that really is sad about the whole thing, or the only thing that I've really kind of like settled on about it all, is just how sad it is that there is so much animosity between us that doesn't have to be there. And this is what I'll tell you is, in my experience, I have not seen a lot of breeders have problems with vets that were nice and that weren't taking advantage. And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. It very well could happen. I'm sure it does. But it's not something that I've encountered, not in my friends, not in myself. And the only time I've ever seen it is whenever there are certain vets that they have this like business protocol, and I think it's because they've been picked up by big, huge conglomerates. And so they're really just designed to kind of nickel and dime you on like everything. And so like, for example, Reese and I were talking about this today. All of a sudden, we've been breeding forever. All of a sudden now, every single puppy that goes into the vet gets a fecal. Now, the reality of the situation is that if your dog is not having diarrhea and not having any kind of weird symptoms, and if you were even worried about worms, I guarantee you that the cost of the worming pill is cheaper than the cost of the fecal. So if you really just want to make sure the dog doesn't have worms, then just give the dog a wormer. You know what I mean? Like, it's cheaper, especially, and you can buy it over the counter. So like, I think I buy Wormex pills for like $12 online, and I buy like the big packs, I think, for like, I don't know, I think they're like 30 to 50, I can't remember, but because I buy packs of 24. Oh, there's deer out here. And so, I mean, it's just like, to me, like, I don't ever do that. If I think that one of my dogs has worms, I do not take them to the vet to see if they have worms. I simply worm the dog. It's not toxic. It's not going to hurt them. And it's really not a big deal. And so it's things like that. And then they want to do the booster, and they want to do this. And then if you don't do it, then they want to look down on you, and they want to lecture you, and they want to make you feel like you're a bad dog parent because you won't do what they say to do, even though you know what you're doing. And like, for example, like the heartworm thing, you know, if you tell most vets I don't give my dog monthly heartworm, they would literally almost lose their minds. But the reality of the situation is, there are good vets that'll be honest with you about it, that technically your dog only needs a heartworm pill every like 5 months, because it takes that long for them to actually, I think it's between 6 and 7 months for a heartworm to mature to the point that it can actually get into the heart. For the rest of the time, they're actually in the blood system. And so all you have to do is just give them a heartworm pill, and that kills them. And most of them would literally act like you're doing something wrong, like you're a bad person. And it's just not the case, because they want to make that money. You know what I mean? They want to make that kickback that they get. So, and I say that I don't know that they get a kickback, but I'm assuming that they do, because of the way that they push it, and because of, like, they even will give you a free, I've had customers of mine who had 8-week-old puppies, and the vet started them on heartworm medication and gave them like a free one. They start them off with a free one with NexGard. And it's like, I really doubt that vets are spending that out of their pocket to give you a free one. You know, like, there's to give somebody something free like that, you're incentivizing getting that behavior in. And so there's just a lot about it that isn't honest, unfortunately, or that's not completely honest. And as a breeder, we know this kind of stuff because we have extremely high costs, and we always have to be looking for ways of either minimizing cost, or because of the fact that we're responsible for these dogs, we want them to be as healthy as possible. So, like, I don't want my customers' dogs on any kind of ingestible flea and tick, because I know that those are very unhealthy. And if something is to go down with that dog, particularly something neurological, so that it's like, you can't really, like, it's one thing if it just makes the dog sick, right? Nobody's going to blame that on a breeder. But if it causes some kind of weird neurological disorder, that's a little more, nuanced. And so you will get customers that will blame their breeders. And we don't want to be blamed for things. And so we do our very best to minimize our dog's exposure to toxins that could harm them, because we don't want to be blamed for it. So we have a vested interest in keeping these people's dogs as healthy as possible. But the vet has an interest in making as much money as possible. They make more money if the dog is sick. And so, and it's like, and they want us to just ignore that fact. They want us to just trust that they just wouldn't do that. And I'm sorry, but I've been alive long enough to know that human beings will do whatever it is that is in their best interest. And they will hurt their own people, their animals, whatever, in the pursuit of that. And if it ain't true for you, then it shouldn't hurt your feelings. If you're a good person, if you're a good vet and you don't do that kind of stuff, then what I'm saying shouldn't bother you, because you would know that it's not true. And in fact, you probably know that what I'm saying is true about other people. But if it bothers you and you think that I'm painting all vets with a broad stroke and that I'm just being blah, 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 then chances are you're just like them. Because you should be able to see that, that there is a difference. And they don't do the same stuff to cattle breeders and stuff like that, because they can't get away with it. And they also don't do it in very rural areas where people can't afford that kind of stuff. But they will shame you in the city because they think that you're dumb and they think that you don't know. And And so it creates conflict, you know what I mean? If they just didn't act like that, then people wouldn't judge them. It's not unwarranted. You know what I'm saying? It's legitimately not unwarranted. And then vets also need to realize that they do have a responsibility to provide customer service. And unfortunately, there's way too many vets that think that customer service is not a part of their job. I don't know what it is. They all think that they get to have surgeon, human surgeon temperaments. You know what I mean? And it's like, I'm sorry, but we barely meet those people. You know what I'm saying? And vets are way more hands-on. You see them a lot more. You guys have to have customer service. You don't have the liberty of being like that. Otherwise, people are just going to hate you. I mean, you can, but people are going to hate you. And it's just what it is. And I had a lot of people try to blame me for veterinarians, unaliving themselves. And that really bugged me, because when somebody unalives themselves, that is a termination of the self. Okay. That is that. And that is not a reflection upon me. Like, if you're not a child with a lack of judgment from being bullied and you're an adult, you should be able to rationalize that people are going to have believe me, if vets have a reason to unalive themselves, then where's my excuse? Where are the hate groups specifically towards an individual vet that you know of? You know what I'm saying? Like, I guarantee you that I deal with a lot more bullying and harassment than most vets do. And I don't go around telling people, you stop being mean to me, you're going to make me unalive myself. I don't do that crap. I'm not going to do that. And I don't appreciate people trying to act like that is my fault, because it's not my fault. And, it very often has to do with overwhelming amounts of debt and unrealistic expectations of work. A lot of people think that they're just, from what I've seen, a lot of them were, because I was reading about it. Whenever I got accused of it, I was reading about it, and they had interviewed vets and stuff like that, and what their concerns were. And like, customers being mad at them was the last one on the list. And it wasn't even like, they were saying that people wanted free stuff. Like, people were mad that vets wouldn't fix their dogs for free. And I've never had an issue like that. You know what I mean? Do I think that there are vets that overcharge for stuff? Absolutely. But, that's neither here nor there. There's a lot of people doing that in the world, but most of them, it was an overwhelming amount of debt. Most of them are over $100,000 in debt to start with. And they end up having to euthanize a lot of animals, and it gets to them. And what's interesting to me, or I would say unfortunate and sad, is that there's no one else that would understand that better than a breeder, because we go through the same thing. We get into it wanting to raise beautiful puppies and raise life and have, this wonderful experience. And more often than not, you deal with a lot of death. And it's extremely, extremely, extremely difficult and painful. And most people will have, a handful of dogs in their life throughout their entire life, and they might have to put them down. We have so many dogs. I don't know if you can imagine having to euthanize as many dogs as we would have to if we kept every single dog on our property. The amount of pain that a person would go through having to go through that. In fact, Reese and I have an agreement. It's so difficult. Reese and I have an agreement. We take each other's dogs. We literally, when one of us has to put down a very special dog to us, the other one does it for him. And to make it easier, because otherwise it's unbearable. It's legitimately unbearable. It's too much. It's like having your family members die constantly. And it's not always constant, but it is enough. You know what I mean? Like, it is enough. Like, most people might lose a dog every 7 to 9 years. And as a breeder, your frequency is much higher than that. And particularly, you get random stuff that happens, and like puppies that die and things like that. And it's just it's very difficult. And that's what's so sad to me, is that if there's anyone that would understand the plight of a vet, it's a breeder. We understand. We go through a lot of the same stuff. And it's very unfortunate that we can't just be friends. I wish that we could. But, but they're going to have to choose a side. They're going to have to stop with the corporate conglomerate stuff. You know what I mean? Get back to being I promise you, if they would just get back to being good old-fashioned vets again, I guarantee you that you'd have so much business that you wouldn't even be able to, you know, and everyone would appreciate it, because the atmosphere is so bad right now that people are just, I mean, anytime we hear about a good vet, like, you know what I mean? Like, Reese called me today saying that her mom found a good vet, like a regular vet, and I was like, oh my God, he had regular prices, you guys. Like, and this is what's so funny to me, is this guy's willing to do an entropion surgery for a customer's dog for like $200 an eye. And mind you, that's normally, in another vet, they charge you like $3,000 for a surgery like that. It's stupid. And $200 an eye is exactly what it should be. If you know what entropion surgery is, it's very simple. It's the same. It's not the same thing as cherry eye, but it is the same level of like easiness. Like cherry eye may be even easier. And there's no reason for it to cost more than a couple $100. It really shouldn't. And for this guy out here in this day and age right now to be able to have those prices, it tells you that there's a reason that those other vets have those high prices. It's not, you know, they'll all claim that it's the price of things and it's inflation and it's blah, blah, blah. But they did the same thing to me whenever I needed to have a cherry eye removed back in Texas. And they tried to charge me over $600 an eye. And then I went out to a vet out in Burnett and got it done for like $200. And he's still doing that, because I've had people call me, customers of other people in Texas, not even my customers, needing cherry eye removal, and they call me and they still go up to this guy. And I've had people drive as far as San Antonio to Burnett, Texas. I think it's like a 3-hour drive to save like $1,000. And as long as those kinds of stories exist, these other breeders are gonna, you know what I mean? You're gonna get a bad reputation. Because people are going to see those prices and they're going to look at you, and after the surgery is done and they see that it was done right, they're going to wonder themselves, what makes you feel that you are justified in asking for so much more? And that's where you get into a problem. And then people perceive your behavior as greedy, and then they form a judgment against you. And I get it. You got high student loans, and you think that, you know, you're going to pay them off faster by asking for even more for everything that you do. But I don't know what to tell you, man. You know what I mean? I don't know what to tell you. But you're going to have a bad reputation, and you're going to be euthanizing more animals because the people can't afford your vet care. And that's going to break your heart, having to euthanize healthy animals that have maybe something that you can fix, something that maybe the dog is sick. Like maybe it's got an obstruction, right? And it could be saved, but you want $7,000 and the owner only's got like what, $4,000 or $5,000, maybe something like that. And they don't have any credit. Maybe that's all they got on their care credit. You know what I mean? And now the dog has to die because you have enough for the surgery. You definitely have enough for the surgery, but you're not going to do it because you can't get that extra amount on top. And it's just like, it's not right. Like the vet who, you know, mandatory, an additional, I forget what it was, but I think it was around $500, additional for the spay on Velocity. And it's like, if I didn't have that extra $500, I could not have gotten Velocity, cesarean done. And because they were very, very clear about that. They were very clear on the phone with us whenever in fact, Reese is the one who found them. And Reese called me and she's like, look, I found a place that'll do it, but you have to spay the dog. And I was like, what? I was like, what are you talking about? Like, psh, ah, ah. I was like, if there's something wrong, something like that. And she's like, no. She goes, it's their own policy. If they do a cesarean, psh, no, then you have to spay the dog. And it's like, that's, you know what I mean? That's ridiculous. And as long as vets are acting like that, they're going to have a bad reputation. You don't get to do that kind of stuff. You can do it, but there are consequences. There are consequences for that behavior. And really, I think it should be illegal. I think it should 100% be illegal. You should not be able to withhold life-saving services for an elective surgery that is unnecessary, simply not only unnecessary, but increases the likelihood of death. It's pretty bad. So I think that should be illegal. And as long as vets are doing that kind of stuff, they're going to have a bad reputation. Just is what it is. So anyway, I got to call a customer back. I had somebody call me, and I've got to go pick up Savannah. But I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.